Technical writing exists in every possible way. Everything is documented. So
Yep.
when you meet these people and when you talk to them about their perspective and their content strategy, it kind of
So, what have you observed as some of the common mistakes when setting up a knowledge base?
the first and foremost mistake I think they make is treating it as a
How do you measure or how do you know the knowledge base is effective?
documentation is often the first interaction a user has after they sign up.
So, it should be definitely a product experience.
If a user can't figure out how to use a feature, it doesn't matter how well it was engineered, right? It's effectively unusable.
No, we all are talking about AI.
So I think making the role less about typing words and more about orchestrating knowledge. I probably think for the next generation of technical writers.
Welcome to the Knowledge Base Ninjas podcast, where Gauri Ramkumar of Document 360 finds the best SaaS self-service knowledge bases in the world and then interviews their creators. Let's get started with today's episode.
Welcome everyone to the Knowledge Base Ninjas podcast. With me today, we've got Pradeep Venugopal, technical writer at Coralogix. Hi Pradeep, how are you doing today?
Hello, Gauri. I'm doing good. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. So, before we dive into any other topics, just help us understand how did you start this journey? Looks like you've been in this industry for over 10 years. So, let us know what inspired you and how you're enjoying so far.
Okay, so I think the journey as a technical writer started with a suggestion from a friend who said there is a job like technical writing because 10 years ago it was not a prominent field, and I still think it is still niche. Because when I introduce myself as a technical writer to some of my friends here, they just ask, what is it?
Okay, interesting.
I mean, if you're a software developer or something in a team of 20, there'll probably be just one technical writer, and it's not a very well-known field yet, right? And then, even though it's been around for a few hundred years, nobody knows what it is. So then I was introduced to this by a developer friend of mine. Back then I was doing back office works and everything. So then I thought this would be a nice switch with my degree in computer application. And I was running a travel blog. And then I thought, so this is a nice combination of things, that skills that I already have, which I can use it for a job. So then once I entered, then you understand, like you get different perspectives of a lot of things, and it keeps it interesting over the years. And I stuck to this.
Fantastic. So I'm sure you must have worked in multiple organizations. What did those organizations teach you to sharpen your skills or to improve in the next project?
That's quite a lot. So I started with SAP, and I've been there for like 6 years. And I thought it was a very solid start for a career in technical writing because they had everything. They had this mammoth of product which serves enterprises, and they also had smaller SaaS products that I can work on, which is more fast-paced compared to the enterprise one. And then, so that's my, I'm just out of university and I'm starting as a technical writer, and all I've known was a six months certification course. That's all you know. So the real work started from SAP, and then it was quite a challenge in the beginning to understand how the product works because it's a very complex tool. For people working in the field, they need like years of training to understand that, right? But then you get thrown into the sea on day one, which is quite an adventurous way to learn things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you might learn the hard way, but that will stick with you forever, isn't it?
Yeah, you learn to survive. You learn new tricks on learning things quickly. And so I got that start from the beginning. So now if you put me anywhere in any complex places, it becomes easier to learn because that's the only way I know how to survive as a technical, right? Yeah. And so once I out of there, I know how to document for an enterprise product, and I also know how to document for a SaaS product, which is more people friendly, which is more quicker, right? So out of there, I moved to Amazon here in London, which is completely different. It is user focused, but then the user base is large, right? If it's internal, it's large. If it is external, it's huge.
Huge, yeah.
And then the way you write for each of them is completely different.
Wow.
And here, I was also doing some of the project management works for technical writing. So you have to write use cases and vignettes to get budgets out of it. So that means you go to a warehouse to see how it actually works and then write vignettes of that. And then it is more of like, so you have different perspectives and different personas within the company, and then you have different personas outside the company as well. For example, an AWS product, it touches a lot
Mm.
of companies, right? Which in way, like I said, I was prepared in SAP, right? So you have multiple personas working side by side in there, which helped
Mhm.
a lot in Amazon. And then I moved to a completely different domain called the observability, ITSM observability platforms, which I just started 3 years ago, and I find it very intriguing and interesting so far, and it's highly technical and
Right.
it's fast evolving, right? So yeah, so that's pretty much it. And now I'm in Coralogix. So it's more of a it's under the top 10 observability tools right now. So it's
Mhm.
still new. So it's just a 5-year-old company that's still growing. So yeah.
Fantastic. Now, you spoke about big names. How do you measure or how do you know the knowledge base is effective?
Okay. So for a knowledge base to be effective, it should be easily discoverable. Like people can find it when they need it without
Mm-hmm.
any searching. And then they need to trust the knowledge base. They need to trust the teams there. They need to trust that it is accurate and up to date. And also, it has to be actionable. Instead of pages and pages of blogs and then on concepts, you are writing for people who are learned, who are skilled. So you need to make some assumptions that they know things, and then make those documents actionable. They take information from there and they accomplish something in their daily life and they reach their goal. So it's as simple as that. But then so in practical terms, it kind of looks like a structured knowledge base with clear ownership, who owns which product, and then regular review cycles and integration into daily workflows. So this, in turn, I think it fosters a culture of sharing knowledge across companies. Yeah. And it kind of helps teams grow together.
Right. Now, when we are trying to make the knowledge base very effective, as I mentioned as you mentioned as well, you were thrown to learn the product and come up with the documentation. So what have you observed as some of the common mistakes when setting up a knowledge base or internal wikis?
Okay. So that is something that I've worked multiple times with in multiple places where they come up with their own, like teams come up with their own knowledge base, etc. Right? So for the first and foremost mistake I think they make is treating it as a one-time project instead
Mm-hmm.
of an ongoing living system. So once they do that, the second one that follows is overloading it with unstructured content. So they write new topics again and again instead of single sourcing and finding that one single source of truth that can be updated.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it does not matter who wrote it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're updating it, you learn the whole thing and then you update it. And then the other thing would be no clear ownership. So the content becomes outdated and people start trusting it. And then they write their own gray documents and store it somewhere. And they refer that instead of a central location. The final one would probably the poor user experience, like inconsistent labeling, like navigate menus or forcing users through multiple clicks. Because when it comes to a knowledge base, I think even if it's internal or external, it should be treated as a product in itself. So user experience becomes important there as well. Because every time someone searches for information, they are losing time on doing something else.
Correct. Yeah.
Making this easier makes everybody's life easier. Like go about your own thing.
Very well said. Yeah, we keep talking about trust the team, trust the system to have the latest updated information, right? Now, how do you ensure that documentation keeps up with the frequent updates or even agile releases? Because many of the organizations you described now, or many of them outside, are very agile, right? They have releases every month, if not every week, right? So, how do you make sure that the documentation is updated?
The personal way that I do is I sit with the PMs when they're writing PRDs. That's like
Right.
even before Sprint Zero, I'm there. So I know what's coming. So the best way is to embed documentation into the product's lifecycle. So that means participating in sprint planning releases, which is the normal thing every writer does, making documentation reviews part of the definition of done. So sometimes this is the part you have to force yourself into the development process and say that feature is not ready because the documentation is not signed off yet, right?
All right, make it part of the release.
Yeah. So you make friends where possible, and then you tell them, see, this has to be done as well. And then some places you can use automation where possible, like linking box to release notes. And some of the Jira upgrades that they've come up with does that automatically. Like it stops any feature being released because a ticket that's related to documentation shows as a blocker.
Right.
So this is done two different ways. Like in enterprise, the challenge is often documenting something very complex, like which depth documenting complex changes through thoroughly for specialized users, right? So you have two or three personas who've been working with them for like years of years. So for them, you need to document very technically. They need to know everything that's coming out. But in a SaaS, the challenge is speed.
Yeah.
The features could be small, and the user could be anyone from a common man to anyone. And so they're ensuring docs are ready at release time or shortly after, sometimes. In both cases, proactive involvement in the development process is what keeps the documentation from lagging behind. So it's you embed yourself in the production process.
Very well said. Yeah, I think this question might also be very interesting, which is though we want to be part of the release, how should one consider documentation should be part of the product experience, or should it be considered more like a support function?
It's definitely a product experience. So
Mm.
imagine you have a product and then someone's stuck on like IKEA furniture or something. They're stuck on something and they go through your manual to fix, which should be a very simple fix. But then your documentation is not very clear, and then they're not able to put together, let's say, a simple sofa or something, and that spoils the product, the user experience, which in turn spoils the goodwill for the company itself. If a user can't figure out how to use a feature, it doesn't matter how well it was engineered, right? It's effectively unusable. So,
True.
and the other part is, if you have good documentation, it reduces support burden.
Yeah.
It in turn saves cost and saves money and time. But its primary role is enabling success to from A to B, so you can reach as quick as possible without support from an external factor. So
Right.
in that context, great documentation acts like an extension of product design. So it guides, explains, and helps users accomplish their goal as quick as possible. Like in this scenario, I can think of like for SaaS, especially where self-service is a norm. Documentation is often the first interaction a user has after they sign up. So making it so that makes it critical when they're onboarding, adopting, and also using the product.
Yeah, that's true. So
Yeah.
it should be definitely a product experience.
Correct.
Right. I'm sure you've experienced a lot in the 10 plus years of journey. Now we all are talking about AI. Now, what are your thoughts on how AI is changing the role of a technical writer like yours?
Well, I think AI is transforming technical writers in several ways, I would say. So probably on a tactical side, AI tools can draft like boilerplate content, summarize release note, suggest structures, or even help with localization. So this would save time for me, as like we as technical writers can become like curators, validators, and designers of knowledge ecosystems with the help of this tool, right? Which we were doing previously as well, but then it saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
So now I think if we are using an AI generated content, you still have to make sure it's accurate, consistent with the brand voice, which I don't think the AI can do it from scratch unless you train it through, because each company has its own voice and it has to be aligned with its users' need. So these users are people that we interview, like that we speak to. So we have more empathy towards them than AI. So I think it becomes like we kind of test the outcome, we personalize it instead of just making ChatGPT write something and just throw it out.
Yeah.
And so when the time that we save, instead of spending all their time writing from scratch, writers are increasingly focused on strategy and information architecture and quality assurance.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a human in touch, human in the loop concept.
Yes. So I think making the role less about typing words and more about orchestrating knowledge. So in our own way, personalized way, if possible.
Understand. Now, moving on to the rapid fire round questions, Pradeep, do you have any resources that you think you can recommend to our viewers, particularly on the documentation side?
Resource as in something.
Any blogs or any books or anything that you found very interesting that you recently consumed?
I think instead of blocks and looks, I prefer going to one of the TC World conferences that happens
Mm-hmm.
like 2, 3 years. So, so the thing about TC World is we always talk about technical writing as a software product, right? But technical writing exists in every possible way. Everything is documented, like any hardware, like a washing machine that you buy, like anything, like a screw in an aircraft, everything is documented, and all of that is technical writing as well. So
Yep.
when you meet these people and when you talk to them about their perspective and their content strategy, it kind of broadens the way you think about your product. So
Mm.
I think that is more helpful rather than reading a blog or a book. So if someone can do it, they could like visit any of the TC World like events that happens all around the year.
Nice. Thank you for that. What is that one word that comes to your mind when you hear documentation?
Well, I think documentation is a part of knowledge management. So documentation, it could be your user guide or an API reference or a tutorial or something. So when several documentation comes together, that becomes a knowledge management. So that's how I feel. So it often feeds into knowledge management systems.
Now, a piece of advice to your 20-year-old self.
A 20-year-old self, I don't know, I think probably just choose to be a technical writer early on so that you're more prepared.
Right. And take any challenge as it comes, as you did straight out of uni, right?
I think life just throws you on something, so just be prepared.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Now, did I miss anything that you would like to share?
I probably think for the next generation of technical writers, I think because of there's like I've heard there's a lot of fear of AI and everything. I think AI literacy is important, so it's just a tool that we can use, know how to leverage effectively while maintaining quality. And then collaboration skills, working closely with product, engineering,
Mm-hmm.
and support, because people skills is it's utmost important as a technical writer because you're dealing with a lot of people to get
Yeah.
information out. And then comes probably your tool fluency and analytical and data literacy on how to they need to learn how to use metrics to improve docs. Once you have all of this in place, and once you're a technical writer for a long time, your content strategy and information architecture, I think it should come naturally to you once you understand and have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of empathy for the product and the people using it.
Right,
So,
right. So, Pradeep, that was amazing conversation we had now, and thank you for sharing all the nitty-gritties of how you started your journey and what you accomplished in the last 10 plus years. And we wish you all the very best for your upcoming projects and good luck with a lot more innovations that's yet to be experienced.
thank you so much. And those were interesting questions, and I hope it reaches a lot of people. And
Absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Take care, Pradeep.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Knowledge Base Ninjas podcast. Please head to iTunes, rate, and provide honest feedback on the podcast. See you next week.